Caitlin Clark attends Indiana vs. Ohio State Big Ten Championship game. As she enjoys her second WNBA offseason, Iowa women's basketball legend and current Indiana Fever star Caitlin Clark made her way to the Big Ten Championship game from Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis on Saturday night. While the Hawkeyes are not involved in the conference title game this season, the high-profile clash between number 1 Ohio State, 12-0, 9-0 Big Ten, and number 2 Indiana, 12-0, 9-0 Big Ten, was too much for the two-time WNBA All-Star to ignore. As an added bit of Clark humor, she mentioned in her Instagram story that she is rooting for the Hoosiers over the Buckeyes. "Don't worry. I'm cheering for IU football," Clark said in her Instagram story. It is also worth noting that Clark's teammate, Kelsey Mitchell, attended Ohio State for 4 years from 2014 to 17. While it is unknown if Mitchell is in attendance with Clark, that may be a factor in her decision to root for Indiana. Contact/follow us at Hawkeyes Wire on X, formerly Twitter, and like our page on Facebook to follow ongoing coverage of Iowa news, notes, and opinions. Follow Scout on X at Springgate News. This article originally appeared on Hawkeyes Wire. Caitlin Clark attends Indiana vs. Ohio State Big Ten Championship game. The wind outside Gainbridge Fieldhouse had a December sharpness to it, a crisp Midwestern bite that made the scattered snowflakes whip in tight spirals. The building hummed like a living thing, pulsing with the energy of a championship crowd that had poured in from every corner of Indiana and Ohio. Across the plaza, fans in scarlet, gray, and crimson mixed in an uneasy but electric swirl, all bracing for the collision of two Big Ten titans. But beneath all that hype, camera lenses had found another magnet. One more reason for the buzz. One more symbol hovering like a lighthouse over every conversation. Caitlin Clark was in the building. Not in a jersey, not with a tape job on her wrist, not leading a fast break with her signature whipping grin. Instead, she was walking into a rivalry game as a spectator, yet somehow producing cheers louder than either team warming up on the floor. She didn't intend to steal a single inch of spotlight. But that's the strange gravity of greatness. It just happens. The arrival. She arrived quietly, at least that was the plan. A side entrance. Minimal security escort. Cap pulled low. Fever jacket zipped high. The kind of discreet entrance professional athletes typically use to avoid unnecessary chaos. But Caitlin Clark is not a typical professional athlete. Not anymore. Not after becoming the face of a league, a cultural touchstone, and the Big Ten's most beloved export since the conference's golden eras. The moment she stepped through the tunnel, a teenage girl near the rail gasped so loudly that heads whipped around. It was over from there. Within seconds, the crowd surged toward the barrier like a tide. Phones shot up into the air. A chant, faint at first, swelled quickly. See him in. Clark paused mid-stride, half flustered, half amused, and offered a small wave. She signed a couple shirts, a ticket stub, a homemade sign that read, "Iowa forever. Indiana proud." Then she continued toward her seat, shaking her head with a smile that said, "I should have known better." She settled 2 rows behind the Indiana bench, drawing a ripple of attention so thick that even Ohio State players glanced up during shoot-around. One camera operator circled her like a satellite, careful but persistent, waiting for the perfect shot. A student in the balcony kept yelling, "We still miss you in Iowa," and Clark gave a thumbs up without looking away from the court. She was here as a fan. Or at least trying to be. 2. A championship stage she once ruled. The opening anthem rolled through the arena, but Clark's eyes lingered on the thick championship decals pressed into the hardwood. This building, this conference tournament, this environment, it all carried the weight of memory. 2 years ago, these same colors, these same bright overhead lights, had framed the most electric chapter of her collegiate saga. The deep-range daggers. The frenzied standing ovations. The constant double teams that somehow never slowed her. She remembered the feeling of the ball leaving her hand, the storm of noise that followed, the way the arena seemed to tilt toward her every time she crossed half court. Tonight, she wasn't the focal point. But ghosts of her own greatness hovered everywhere. Indiana fans adored her as a pro now. Ohio State fans remembered her as a rival they never quite solved. And every kid wearing a number 22 jersey clung to the hope that one glance from her direction might change their life. Caitlin leaned forward as the ball tipped. For once, she wasn't commanding the floor. She was simply watching it. 3. Indiana's moment, Ohio State's mission. The first quarter erupted with the kind of physicality that only Big Ten basketball can deliver. Indiana struck first, a backdoor cut, a high-arcing finish. Ohio State answered with a corner three that sliced through the net like a razor. The crowd roared with every shift in momentum, the building vibrating under the weight of thousands of stomping feet. Clark sat with her elbows on her knees, analyzing every possession the way a painter studies brushstrokes. She whispered thoughts under her breath. Rotations. Screens. Defensive switches. At one point, she instinctively motioned as if to call out coverage, only to catch herself and laugh. Old habits die harder when the court is this familiar. During a timeout, the arena's massive jumbotron lit up with a graphic of past Big Ten legends. Clark's face flashed last, and the cheer that erupted nearly drowned out the PA announcer. She ducked her head in embarrassment. But she was smiling. Indiana junior guard Talia Henson, catching the noise during her walk back to the huddle, looked up, spotted Clark, and grinned broadly. Clark sent back a small salute. Later, Henson admitted that moment alone gave her goosebumps. For the conversations that followed her. Even in the sections far from the court, Caitlin Clark was the topic of whispered excitement. She shouldn't even have to pay for popcorn, joked an Indiana dad holding a tub the size of a tire. Ohio State probably wishes she'd stayed home, a Buckeye alum remarked with a smirk. A group of middle school girls argued about whether Clark would eventually coach, broadcast, or buy an entire WNBA franchise. But deeper conversations buzzed underneath the surface. She's changed the Big Ten forever, someone said behind her. Seeing her here feels like a full-circle moment, another replied. Clark heard some of it. Not all. Enough to feel the gratitude wash through her like warmth on a cold night. Because she hadn't come for recognition. She'd come because basketball still moved her. And watching Indiana fight their way through a championship battle stirred memories she hadn't fully processed since turning pro. The third quarter surge. Midway through the third quarter, Indiana launched a blistering 10-0 run. The arena detonated with sound. Scarlet jerseys tensed. The crimson ones roared. Clark shot to her feet during a transition three that splashed through the net and sent the Hoosier bench spilling onto the court in celebration. For the first time all night, she looked every bit the superfan she had tried not to be, hands on her head, face lit up, shouting words lost in the sea of noise. A camera framed her in the middle of the pandemonium. She didn't care. She was caught in the moment,